Today it's time for another retail roundup. So I have with me my co-host Gary Hawkins. Gary,
Shaker, great to be with you today. And there's a lot happening out there.
right? And as usual, this is our monthly thing. Once a month we look at all the great stuff that's happening, and me and Gary just discuss it, give our opinion about it, and if there's specific topics you want us to discuss, let us know. We're glad to include it. So Gary, first up here, I know there's some really interesting stuff happening between Amazon and Spartan Nash, who's a wholesaler, right, based out of Michigan.
Yes.
What is going on here, Gary?
Yeah. So there's a lot of separate pieces that have come out in the news over the past few days, but it doesn't take much to start connecting the dots here and getting a sense of what's going on. So the first announcement, close to a week ago, was that Amazon Spartan Nash had inked a supply agreement that carries forward, I think it's for another 7 years, that Spartan Nash will supply Amazon fresh foods, other packaged goods, and so on in different markets, right? To support Amazon Fresh and so on today. But it doesn't take much of a stretch to think about Spartan Nash supplying Amazon stores, right? So that was the first announcement. Then it came out after that that part of that supply agreement gives Amazon the option to purchase, I think it's around 15% of Spartan Nash if they so choose to. So it gets a little more interesting. Then I think it was yesterday, it came out in the news that Spartan Nash has just signed a 7-year lease agreement for a massive distribution center. I believe it's in Maryland or Virginia, so on the East Coast. And so, again, sort of connecting those dots, a lot of speculation around is Spartan Nash positioned now to supply Amazon as they go after building out more and more brick and mortar stores. Yes.
So basically you're saying that Amazon is trying to position itself where it has all the pieces to really go to market with their own stores, have a supply chain network set up with the wholesaler behind them, because Amazon is really not in the wholesaler business. I guess they're trying to leverage Spartan Nash's capabilities.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah, and we knew several months ago that as Amazon's opening up these new formats, they just opened up the new Amazon Fresh format in the LA area. They've got the Amazon Go stores. They have Amazon Go Grocery, which is a 12,000 square foot traditional store, but all, cashierless technology. And they're playing with apparently another format. So we knew a few months ago that Amazon was beginning to sign leases, a lot of leases in a lot of metro areas around the country. And it could be that we're going to be seeing a whole lot of activity there really fast.
Of course, we're connecting the dots here. None of
Yes.
this, and a lot of this stuff is conjecture. So if anybody's listening out here and wants to take this as actual fact, it's not yet. We're just, assuming, making some assumptions based on what we're hearing from the news. And, nowadays, you never know. You have to clarify, what's a conjecture and what's actual news. Right. So exactly. But obviously, we want to make sure that we're transparent, we're honest, and upfront about we're talking opinion here. That's cool. So I know, and there's another interesting thing that I read in the news channels, which was and we follow AI and customer intelligence, and I think this was a small capability that Kroger deployed, which is, I think, and this has happened to me. When I'm a self checkout, I'm scanning, and then I have a problem with one of the items, right? And I'm waiting for somebody to come over and help me. I guess what they've done is they've deployed some kind of visual technology to see if customers are having issues at self checkout and automatically call customer service in to help them out.
Wow.
Right. And that's a really interesting use, because it's I think it's very behind the scenes, but it's seamless to the customer. I mean, maybe magically the customer service person shows up saying, "Are you having trouble?" But that's a pretty smart use of technology.
Oh, it is, and I think it also speaks to this idea that AI technology is really can't be viewed as just AI anymore, right? AI is becoming incredibly pervasive, is finding its way into all sorts of applications and capabilities and so on.
Yeah. which almost prompts me. I think I know we throw these big terms around on our podcast. AI, machine learning, or, artificial intelligence, and maybe it's not a bad idea, Gary, for us to get a guest over from the AI field and kind of demystify and put it in layman's language. What exactly is AI? Because a lot of people think of it as a black box,
Yep.
and it's mumbo jumbo, and somehow this is a super intelligent machine. But uh, I think it'll be helpful to get people over here on our podcast and have them explain it. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I completely agree because as I talk to people across the industry, everybody's using that term now, right? And it's become a buzzword. AI is everywhere, but relatively few people, to your point, I think, really understand what AI is,
Right.
how it works, how it can be used, different types of AI and machine learning. So I think that's a great idea if we could get an expert on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a term that yeah, at least people in the grocery industry are probably intimidated by because they just feel it's just too much unknown here.
Yep.
So folks, just rest easy. We're going to demystify it for you and tell you exactly what it is and what it's not. Okay. Uh, Third thing here on my list, and this is something you just mentioned to me, Gary, but this is like super cool. Contactless palm checkout.
Yeah, yeah. So again, this is coming from our friends at Amazon, and I think it's obviously this has probably been in the works for a while, but the timing of this, given the world we live in today with the whole COVID-19 pandemic still going on and people afraid of touching things and so on, Amazon has deployed a contactless payment technology that
Mhm.
works by you create a digital wallet that holds your payment or your payment instruments. You go in the store and shop, and when you check out, you simply hold your hand or your palm over this reader. You don't touch anything, and it's reading your palm to authenticate that payment transaction.
Wow.
Really, yeah, really slick stuff.
So this is palm reading taken to a different level. That's what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now
Wow.
there's some interesting things here, and as I think I've shared with you, Shaker, I've got a little bit of knowledge of the whole biometric payment space from years ago with a company called Pay by Touch, and at that time, we were using a finger scan, but you had to touch the sensor to authenticate the transaction. I think it's worth watching what Amazon does with this because I believe their plans are to offer their technology out to other merchants. And if you stop and think about that now, what that implies is that Amazon would begin developing a view to what other merchants that shopper is going to and what they're spending and conceivably even, what products they're purchasing.
I know it's not such a big thing in the United States, but I know internationally, Amazon Pay makes a big push to be a payment mechanism.
Yes.
Uh, and I don't see why you could have a Amazon Pay uh, station, at a checkout where you just hold your
Yes.
hand up and it automatically uses your Amazon Pay account and you're off and going.
Yeah. No, that's
Right?
absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure we're going to see this in Whole Foods. We're going to see this in other formats here,
Right.
probably pretty soon.
Right. We to different talk to the hand type thing.
That's right. That's right.
Right. But that's amazing. I mean, this is exciting times. I mean, I know. First of all, I hope everybody out there is staying safe. Because it's what month number 7, Gary, almost
I
into the
think of
lock.
the sort of lockdown.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's
right.
right.
Yeah, so I really hope people are staying safe and staying sane. The best news that you're going to get is from the retail part. So make sure you tune in here every Monday. We make sure it's funny and tell you what all the exciting things going on. Okay, so I think this looks like there's more robots coming down the road here. So Save Mart. So what are they doing with delivery robots?
So,
I heard
so,
something
s
about that.
yeah, so SaveMart just inked a deal to begin deploying robots for delivery of online orders. So these things they've been out in the market for a while. I don't know if they're in your area yet, Shaker. I know they're in the DC area and have been for a while with different pilots and testing. But SaveMart is apparently going down this path. So you do your order online. And then a couple hours later, apparently this robot's going to come trundling up to your front door and let you know it's there with your
Is it
groceries.
those things that look like these picnic ice packs that you pull along?
Yes.
Is one of those small
Well,
ones? Okay,
yeah, but fully
got it.
automated, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, of
it's
course.
like a
Yeah.
big cooler on wheels.
Right, right.
That
Cooler
that
on wheels. Right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I think I've
yeah,
seen pictures of those.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So that's basically, so all this, Gary, is happening because they're trying to figure out how to optimize their logistics from a delivery e-commerce perspective, I guess.
Yeah, and as I think every supermarket operator's e-commerce business has exploded over the past 7 months, right?
Right.
Yeah, many retailers have seen doubling, tripling. I've even talked to some retailers; their online business has gone up 5 or 6 fold. So it now represents, a meaningful portion of their total sales. Now the big push is on to make that profitable, because fulfilling those orders in store when online represents 10% of your total sales now, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of cost associated with that. So there's a massive push we're seeing across the industry right now, for retailers looking to make the fulfillment in that last mile piece as efficient and cost effective as possible.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. And on that same note, I heard somewhere else. Maybe this is not directly tied to retail, but I know Waymo, which is Google's self-driving wing, has gotten a license to operate driverless cabs in Phoenix, Arizona. So if one of you guys are in Phoenix and you took the Waymo cab and it had no driver in it, let us know. That's interesting. That would be a really interesting experience, getting in a cab with no driver.
Yes, yeah. The Jetsons is truly coming to life.
That is true. That is true. Well, uh, you could have driverless cabs delivering your groceries, with a delivery person in the driverless cab. Now you can potentially be a DoorDash person without having a car.
That's right.
Essentially, right? That's
Yes.
pretty.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. I mean, Kroger and Walmart, and I know there's a couple others, have got pilots running right now with driverless vehicles for delivery.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yep.
Deliv, Neuro. That there's several players in that space that are really well funded.
Right. Right. Okay, let's move on to something that's on everybody's mind nowadays, which is health. Health's it's become a big thing, and I think last 6 months people have cooked at home more than they've ever before. I guess, and discovering new recipes, and I think health's obviously become a focus. Right? It's about
Yes.
how can I eat healthier? Instead of just consuming processed food, and we've seen that in the data that our retailers, basically anything that do with cooking at home is exploded, right?
Yep.
Produce, baking, all of that stuff. So I know there was a recent announcement from Loblaws out in Canada. I know
Yes.
that Loblaws is a big retailer. They have about 2,400 stores in Canada. Their biggest chain, I believe, grocery retail
Yes.
chain.
Yep.
And they are putting out something called a PC health app, I believe, Gary.
Yeah. So I think this is just the latest move we've seen in this area that really is a growing convergence of the healthcare industry and the food industry, right? And a linking together of these things. And a lot of this is enabled by big data and enabled by technology, right? That just wasn't available before. Um, but I think you're absolutely right. As people have been sort of locked up for the last 7 months, I think everybody the first few weeks indulged, right? Let's have potato chips and ice cream and all this great stuff. Then, as it became clear we were sort of settling in for the long haul, I think a lot of people became much more serious about, okay, I need to eat healthy. And yes, we're cooking at home nearly every meal now. So, growing interest in nutrition, I think related to the pandemic, growing interest in what foods should I be consuming to help boost my immune system, right, and stay healthy and so on. But all that speaks to more and more apps and capabilities being brought to market by retailers to help that shopper understand what foods to purchase, guide them to foods that are beneficial to them specifically based on their health condition, based on their needs, lifestyle interests, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I know, apart from Loblaw, of course, we at Birds are also doing. We've been working on this for a couple of years now. In fact, this month we're going live at one of our retailers with a personalized wellness app, which is going to be recommending healthy and healthier options for shoppers at a specific store. So, yeah, I think this whole industry is set to explode because I think people want to take charge of their own health.
Yeah.
I think our people are. I think you have on one side the transparency initiative that's happening, which is I want to know where my food is made, how it was made, and how it's delivered.
Yep.
And I think, secondly, this consciousness about, I want to eat healthier food. So I don't want to have to go, through a dietitian who I can meet once a month at the store. I want to be able to make the decision for myself. And I think, given the number of choices that we have in terms of what we can buy, the importance of these applications and platforms to help people make these decisions easier just becomes so much more important.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this goes a lot of places, right? Not only helping improve the well-being of that customer, that shopper, but there's linkage back into the healthcare industry. There's potentially savings on health insurance if you improve your eating. There's links back to the pharmacy. Understanding the ties between certain medications and food. There's just no end to where this goes.
Yeah, in fact, I see the supermarkets becoming like the guardian of the population's health based on how well they're able to help that population eat and thrive.
I
I mean,
I think it's absolutely true, and I'll go. I think you can even go a step further. Not just sort of the guardians, if you will, or partners in health and well being, but increasingly we're seeing certainly the bigger retailers putting more and more health clinics in the store. I think retail stores will become one of the primary ways people access healthcare.
yeah, I mean, I absolutely. I mean, it makes total sense to me. I don't know if there's retailers out there listening to this, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're thinking in that direction, how much do you see yourself not just as somebody who stocks products and sells it, but who's actually caring for your shopper, universe, and actually can take an active interest in driving healthier habits. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think that's the future. And I think people will innovate in that direction are sure to win, right?
Yes,
So
yeah, completely.
okay, and I think we've got through some really interesting stories. You had one more, Gary, that I wrote down here, which was a company called Caper that's doing some interesting stuff.
Yeah, so Caper has actually been out in the market for the past couple of years now with a smart shopping cart solution. The idea being you can pick the cart up on your way in the door, and as you put products into the cart, it recognizes them and is effectively building your order and checking you out so you can walk out the door. A lot of other data flowing from that for the retailer. Where is that cart going? How long is it spending there? All that type of thing. But the Keeper just announced a new product that I think is really interesting, and it's effectively a countertop automated self checkout solution. So think of it as almost a box, and it looks to be maybe 3 foot square or so that sits
Mhm.
on the counter where you'd normally go to check out. But two sides of it, side facing you, the other side are open. So it's really a frame.
Got it.
And you take the products you're purchasing, you put them in there, and it's using computer vision and sensors to understand what those products are, automatically totals them up so you can walk out the door.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, a really slick solution. Now, obviously, that may not work for a full supermarket today, but boy, for a convenience store, for smaller merchants where it's more grab and go type business, what a great idea.
Yeah, yeah, really cool, really cool. There's a bunch more stories I have here, but I think we're near out of time here. But what I would, you know, if you guys are, I think we're starting to build up a little bit of a following. I know that I get feedback from people who listen to our podcast, and it's terrific. Please keep it coming. Keep it coming. If you want to reach us, you can reach us the retail perch at birdseye.com. And by the way, Gary, we actually have the domain theretailperch.com, and soon we're going to see some content coming on there and new email addresses and if you ever come on this show as a guest, you'll get the mug. You saw a couple of our guests actually receive the mug, so it's real. Okay, it's not mythical; it's real. And coffee in that mug tastes amazing. But we're near about the end of this podcast. As usual, it's been fun talking to you, Gary. So, any closing comments here, Gary?
I think one of the things that hit me. I was actually pulling together a list for another conversation I'm going to be having of all the announcements around tech and innovation, really big things that have come out over the last 30 days. And I filled a page or two of notes, just announcements in the last 30 days. And I guess what really hit me, and I think we've touched on a lot of it today, is just how fast things are moving. And they're getting faster. And I think the pace, the breadth of innovation that we're talking about just on our podcast here today speaks to how fast things are heading.
That is crazy. I just got this crazy idea, Gary. Maybe one of these episodes we should take, a stab at the state of the grocery industry 5 years from now. And you and I will come up with our predictions. And 5 years, we'll look back and see how good our predictions were.
I think that would be phenomenal.
That would be fantastic, right?
Let's do it.
All right. So, by the way, that brings us to the end of this episode. But I want to let you know that in the next episode, I'm going to be interviewing Gary Hawkins, my co-host, because he's just published in my opinion, a landmark paper about retail and the direction which it's going, called Retail 4.0. If you haven't heard about it or seen it on LinkedIn or social media, make sure you can access it. Gary, where do people get it? If they want to go.
So they can go to advancingretail.org or retailmindsteps.com.
Okay. Make sure you get it. Read it. It's a quick read, but it's fun. It's incredibly informative, and it's Gary's insights in terms of where this industry is going. And next episode, come back. We're going to be talking to Gary about what he thinks and talk a little bit, get the inside scoop on Retail 4.0. So with that, I just want to thank the people who put this together. Stephanie Doherty, who is our digital marketing chief, and Aswini, who helped put this podcast together. So thank you so much, guys. And of course, thanks to Gary here as a co-host. So,
all right. No, great. Thank you.
You guys have a safe week, and we'll talk to you soon. Make sure to join us every Monday and connect with us at The Retail Perch on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at theretailperch@birdseye.com.